I have knit 27 objects this year, which sounds a lot more impressive than it actually is, but let me explain. Hi, I'm Emily and welcome back to Knitting Out Loud. This is my little corner of the internet to talk about everything that I have been making. And I have been doing a lot of knitting lately, so we have a lot to talk about. Starting with a new cast on. Since my last project update, I have cast on a pair of vanilla socks and I've made pretty good progress on them. Here's one. I have the second one going as well. So I have the leg done on the second sock, and then this one is through the heel and probably halfway through the foot. And I have been kind of making them both at the same time, but then this one, once I got through the heel, I just kept going and haven't gone back to get the heel done on this one. The yarn for this is from Dye Mad Yarns. That's the wrong tag. It is their Chester sock base and it's called Bigfoot. And I love the way this is knitting up. It is so pretty. I don't know if it's coming across on camera, but it has a lot of pink in it. It's almost like a mauve, pinky background with a lot of brown and tan, and then there's some orange flecks and red speckles and dark green, and it just is so pretty. I was going back and forth with whether I was going to do a pattern sock for these, and then I decided that they would just make a great vanilla sock. So that's what I'm doing. These are both on 9-inch circulars, US size 1. I had a little bit of a snafu because one of my favorite 9-inch circulars from Signature Needle Arts snapped off right when I was doing the short row heel for this sock, and it was so sad because I can't get those needles anymore. Yet, I heard they got bought though, so maybe they'll be coming back. But anyways, that was a sad day. So I got them back on. I think these are just Hiya Sharps, and these ones are my Chowgu red lace size 1. I wasn't sure if I would have color pulling with this yarn, so I am doing helical knitting just in case, because I wanted it to just look really blended and not have a lot of pulling, and that has been going well. And I'm just doing a short row heel on these. I didn't do any increases, so we'll see if that was a mistake or not, or if it all works out. If it's perfectly, time will tell. But these have just been kind of my on-the-go knitting. I have one in this yarn ball on my knitting cart, and I'll just reach for it if I'm in a spot where I don't really want to think about knitting, or if I'm in a meeting where I don't have to talk and I can just do some vanilla knitting while I listen in. And then the other one I have in a bag by, who's this by? All Knit Up Designs. And I just have it in here so that I can grab and go whenever I'm on the go and waiting for whatever it may be. Anytime I have a chance to get a few stitches in, I'm usually doing it. So I cast these on March 28th, and I have made pretty good progress, I would say, for them kind of just being an on the side, not really focused project. So hopefully this will be finished up before too long. My next whip update is my Traveler hoodie, which I have just been working away on. So last time I showed this, I had just finished the body and I had split for the front and back. Where's my stitch marker? It's over here. So yeah, I was this far into the front. So since that video, I finished the front. I went back and I knit all of the back, and the entire hood is done. And the I-cord. So I just have to do the sleeves. But let's talk a little bit about what happened with this since you have seen it last. So I finished the body of this sweater and it looked really cropped. And I thought this is never gonna be right. And this is the first time that I've knit a garment, I believe. Yeah, I believe it's the first time I've knit a garment from the bottom up. So I'm like, if I mess this up, I'm gonna just have to completely frog it and start over. And I was back and forth about, should I add length to the body when I was making it, or should I just follow what the pattern says? And I decided to follow the pattern. And I did know that my swatch would grow, or that my sweater would grow, because I measured my swatch before I blocked it and after I blocked it. And I was growing pretty much on track with what she says to expect in the pattern, but I still did not trust it because it looked tiny. So I had to decide what I was going to do. I didn't really want to stop and block it, but I also didn't want to make sleeves and then block it and it still be too short and then have to really start all the way over on the whole thing. So I did the appropriate thing, even though it was kind of annoying, and I stopped mid-project once I got the shoulder seamed together and I blocked it. And that really saved the day because it made a huge difference. I think I had like 5 inches of growth top to bottom. I did take a before and after blocking video to see the difference that it made, and it was just crazy. So I'm super glad that I did that. And then after I did that, I had to also think about my brain and and how to knit in the way that will both be most enjoyable for me. I'm turning off my computer because I'm getting distracted. Sometimes with projects like this, for me, at a certain point, they just start to feel like a slog and I get really like over it. So I had to play a little game in my head. Would I rather knit both sleeves and then have the whole hood to do, or would I rather get the hood done and then do both sleeves, hopefully kind of, but I'm thinking about doing them 2 at a time. And then my plan is to get the sleeve length right on this sweater, which would be a first for me, and get the sleeves to where I think they need to be, and then block it one more time. And then I'll do the sleeve ribbing and bind off once I know that that it's gonna fit appropriately. And then it'll be done and I can just maybe block my little wristies. So I thought that that would be better than doing the sleeves first, still doing all of that blocking. So blocking it a second time and then going back and adding the hood and then having to block it for a third time because you're gonna want the hood to be blocked. Although it looks pretty good, it wouldn't need to be. So that's how I decided to go ahead and make the hood. I did the I-cord and it took me probably 3 or 4 days. It's a big, sizable hood. So we will see. It's going to be really extra big once I block it. So maybe the hood is going to be too big, but it's nice and roomy. I made the I-cord and I said before when I've talked about this that I wasn't really loving the yarn for this project. And I think maybe that wasn't a fair statement to make because whenever I was rewatching the footage of it, I did actually love the way that it looked on camera. I think it just maybe doesn't pick up quite as much when I'm looking at it versus when I'm wearing it. And I don't know that I would choose this yarn again, knowing what I know now, but I still do really like it. And I think that it is really great and that I'm gonna love having it. So that's where I'm at. Hopefully the next time you see this, I will be finished or close to finished with the sleeves. I have taken kind of a 1 to 2 day break from it because picking up stitches really just stresses me out. So I have to gear myself up. I'm gonna have to set a vibe, have some time to myself where I can do it and think about it, what I'm doing, and hopefully get it right. But yeah, I think that this will be wrapping up hopefully in the next week or so. My next whip is my mileage blanket. So in addition to knitting, one of my other main hobbies is running, and I have a big goal to run 1,000 miles this year. So I was inspired a few weeks ago to use some of my stash yarn and make a mileage blanket to represent all of my different runs that I have in 2026. And the way that I'm doing that is I just have assigned each mile 1 through 15, which is the distance that most of my runs are gonna, hopefully all of them will be within this year. And each one of those mileages is assigned a different color. And then after each run, I add it to a spreadsheet, and it populates the color that corresponds with that mileage. And then it goes into my blanket. I'm just doing 2 rows per run. And I'm doing a transition row between each month with just some eyelets. So let's see, last time I had just finished January. So since then I have finished adding in February, and have also added in March, and I'm just starting the transition rows between March and April. So I only have 3 more runs to add into this before I'm caught up, which is very exciting because I have a big running week this week. I'm supposed to run 28 miles for the week, so my long run will be 14 miles, which will be a first. I'm excited to have this all caught up so that I can add my runs in more real time, because that's pretty exciting to me. The unfortunate thing about this blanket, not that I dislike the color brown, obviously I do like brown, but when I had to assign each mileage a color, I was doing a lot of guesswork. So I had to go through what yarn I had. This is all knit in Knit Picks DK Swish, which I bought a massive quantity of about a year ago to originally make doodle stockings for my kids, and they were like very different themes. My daughter's was going to be more whimsical, which was like the pink and the blue and the light green and the like lighter colors, and then my son's was going to be more like dinos and I don't know, trucks and all of those things. Well, that didn't happen because I got overwhelmed, and now I have all this yarn. So they don't necessarily go that great together, but it's just gonna look like a nice scrappy blanket, and I do love a scrappy blanket. Where I was going with that though is when I had to assign each mileage a color to use as much stash as possible, I assigned the colors that I have the most of to the miles that I run the most of, versus trying to make any sort of like cohesive rainbow as the miles increase, if that makes sense. Or any sort of, there isn't really any method to the color other than how many times do I think that I'm going to run this amount of miles so that I can have enough yarn to use my stash to make it. So that's the method behind the blanket. So it's looking very scrappy, and my most used color so far, I believe, is this brown pine cone heather is the brown, and that one is 3 miles. So I did catch myself when I was out on a run earlier this week. I was right between it. I just am rounding up to the nearest mile, and I was really close. I was like, oh, I don't want another brown line in my blanket. So I added on like a 1/4 mile so that it would get me to the 4, which is nutmeg heather. I will be thinking of my runs in terms of color for the remainder of this year. You better believe it. So I'm enjoying this. I think that it will be just a really fun memory and kind of time capsule for my year of running. And once I get actually caught up, I probably will show you, which runs I've added in and what color it corresponds to for that week. But for now, I am having a lot of fun with this. Okay, those are all my whips. Which brings me to my finished object or objects. And this is how we got to where we are. So hold on. Technically I have 18 finished objects, which are all of these bookmarks. I have finished making 18 bookmarks for my daughter's first grade class. These were mostly done, I believe that I made the last 6 in March, and they have been blocked now. These were all just from scraps in my stash, Some of them are a little longer than others. Some of them are straight across, some of them are angled. Some of them have big tassels. Some of them have little tassels. Some of them have no tassels. Some of them are garter stitch. Most of them are not. They're all done. I'm going to be my daughter's mystery reader next month, and I thought that this would just be a fun way to have something nice to hand out to her classmates and celebrate two things that I love, which are reading and knitting. It feels great to have them done ahead of schedule. I'm not going for 2 weeks, I think, and they're done. They've been blocked. I had thought about starching them, but I didn't. I just blocked them and they really turned out great. They lay flat. The garter ones didn't even need pinned when I blocked them. So I don't think I'm going to starch them. I'm just going to keep them as is and hand them out that way. So we are now at the beginning of April, and I'm going to do a proper check-in on all my stats because I have been tracking everything. So in March, I started 3 new whips and I finished 3 projects. I'm counting the 18 bookmarks as 1 project. Although it is 18 items. So I don't know. It really could go either way, but in my head, it feels like 1 project. So I'm just lumping them all together as 1 project that is done and using them as that in my whips. Although I do think it's kind of fun that I have technically done a lot more finished objects if you want to get crazy about it. My grams out, I had 744 grams out and 300 grams in. So we're moving in the right direction for March. It was pretty good. That was all thanks to my cocoon cardigan, which used up a ton of yarn. As far as grams out, I'm counting them whenever I finish the object. So I haven't counted, that doesn't count anything that's in any of my whips that I have shown. I'm just counting it as they're finished. All of the grams will come out at that time. As for my Q1 update, I have finished 10 objects or 27, depending on how you count them. Again, I am really just counting the bookmarks as 1 finished object because it just feels kind of like cheating otherwise, but I don't know. You tell me. And I shared in my first video my goals for the year. So we're gonna see how I'm doing so far. So there are a couple that are going really well. Goal number 1 is to knit 6 pair of socks, and I have finished 5 pairs of socks, and I have 1 work in progress pair of socks, so that will be wrapping up here soon. And I do have plans to make more socks. Don't you worry. Goal number 2 is to knit 6 garments, and I have 3 done and 1 whip, so halfway there, pretty good. And then the other goal that's going great is learning new techniques. So I put on there that I only wanted to learn 2 new techniques this year, and I have really exceeded that just on 1 pair of socks alone. I learned how to knit inside out, which is really simple, but I had never done it before. And of course, with most things in knitting, I've built it up to be something way harder in my head than it is when I actually just sit down, take a beat, learn how to do it. I was like, oh, I can do that. I can do that. I also learned ladderback jacquard, or jacquard ladderbacks. I never remember how you say it, which was another great technique to know how to do. And I learned how to do a short row heel, which I had never done before. So that's the great right there. I have 2 goals that are going okay. They're definitely on track for the year, but by the end of the year, I want to have 12 finished objects from my stash, meaning full skeins from my stash that haven't been used before, and I have 5 done, which is almost halfway there. So that's pretty good, actually. And then for leftovers, I wanted to have leftovers and scraps, 8 finished objects, and I have 4. That does include the bookmarks. I keep bringing up the bookmarks. 2 goals that have not happened yet, but they're coming. I want to make 2 blankets, and then I have a lot of non-knitting kits that I would like to at least get 2 done because they're taking up a lot of space in my yarn cave, and I got them to learn new things, so I want to make some time to do that. And then the goal that really, really needs to be a little bit of a reality check for me is my more out than in goal. So year to date, I have 1,518 grams out and 4,100 grams in. So we're working on it. I'm not feeling too bad about it because I'm not counting anything until it's a finished object. I have some heavy hitters coming soon because my traveler is a ton of yarn. My mileage blanket won't be weighed until the end of the year, but that will probably be a significant amount of yarn as well. And I have some other heavy hitters coming my way. And I think I'll probably get there. I'm not really on a yarn ban, but I am on a yarn without a plan-ish ban. Because that's where all my stash has accumulated, is buying yarn because I think it's pretty, and then I just get one and then I make nothing with it. So that's kind of where my stash is all hanging out right now. But everything that I've brought in this year, I know is going to go right back out this year. So overall, I'm feeling pretty good. And clearly that did not stop me from buying more yarn because I do have a yarn purchase to share. I'm so excited about this. Oh, it's crinkly. Sorry for the noise. It's so pretty. I got a kit from Yarn Nouveau. This is their Bliss sock base, which is 80% superwash merino, 10% cashmere, and 10% nylon. And I will be using this to make the Soft Current Tee by Wool and Pine. And I cannot wait to cast this on. I have to get a few more things out of the way. Once I get my blanket caught up, I'll be good to cast on another blanket. And then once I finish the Traveler, I think is when I will cast this on. I did do a whole episode on my spring knitting plans where I go into detail about what I'm actually planning to make this spring, and I have some ambitious goals, but if you would like to see more about that, you can definitely go back and watch that episode. I'll be sure to link it below. But I forgot to mention a pair of socks that are on the list. So I didn't talk about my socks that I'm already making. I forgot to talk about that, but there's a second pair of socks that I have planned. Oh, there are 2 more pairs of socks that I have planned. Yeah. Uh-oh, I'm gonna be in trouble here. Okay, the first, I have all wound up here. You can't really see in there, but this is a Hocking Hills mini sock set from Diamond Yarns that I got when I was visiting home in Ohio a few months ago. And I haven't decided on a pattern yet. I have a couple that I'm thinking of. One, I thought about just doing a fade, which would be really fun because it does look like a fade kit. The other one that I was looking at is the Quartet socks. And I don't have I will link all of this, but I don't have it all pulled up right here to tell you anything about it, but where it's more color blocked. And then I also saw somebody, I think it was on Instagram, do theirs was with Knit Picks Felici, I think, which is a self-striping yarn, but they did a slip stitch between the stripes, which just made a really interesting pattern. So I thought that would be cool to do too. And then the other pair of socks that I want to make, I am gonna take just a beat to look this up. Okay, the other pair of socks that I love, I wish this was like a full-sized photo. I'll just pull this up here so you can see it. These are called the Sunny Side Up socks by Summer Lee. I have her book. Oh, there we go. And I think these are so cute and would be great with the leftovers that I have from my Stardew Valley socks. So we're just gonna add that to my list of completely and totally unrealistic spring knitting plans. Okay. Before I go, let me share what I'm wearing. This is the Scotch Broom by Wool and Pine Designs. It was the first garment that I ever made for myself, and I really love it. We've been having some great weather and sunshine the past week, and it has been lovely to reach for this, and I think I'm just gonna get a lot of wear out of it, but I really like it, and I'm so excited to make more tops from them because they have so many beautiful designs for spring and summer. That's all I have to share today. Thank you so much for watching, and you can find me on Instagram at Knitting Out Loud and Ravelry at Emily Knits a Lot too. I'll see you next time.